All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 25th new Grantee Staff Transition Committee meeting today. Today is going to be a little bit more of an informal topic and resource sharing. So what I'd like to do with us today is I did drop a link into the chat to our after school in a box, and I'm actually going to pull that up on my screen too and share with you this toolkit. I want to walk you through a couple of the features from it to show you some things on screen, and then full disclosure, I am also using you because I know you guys will give me just really super honest feedback about the document in and of itself to prepare for future professional development offerings. So anything you can give me is great. So we'll spend a little bit of time doing that today, and then the kind of second part, or after we're done having that discussion, I just want to have an open discussion session just to check in. How are things going? What do you need? What's going well? Where are you seeing some challenges? And if there's anything that myself or any of the other members of the Iowa After School Alliance can do for you pertaining to your 21st century program, or even just life in general, I'm happy to talk that through with you today. So if you want to grab that link and pull this up on your own screen, that's perfectly fine. But like I said, I am going to, oops, I tell you, I'm just like click happy today. I am going to pull up and show you what this looks like and where it's located. So a little bit of history here. A few years ago, the Iowa After School Alliance was actually doing some work with the Iowa Women's Foundation. And one of the things that the Iowa Women's Foundation was really interested in addressing was this lack of childcare in the state. And I'm using childcare in a very general sense. So not only do I mean, where do I take my 6-month-old when I want to have a new job or something like that. I'm also talking about school-aged care for those 6 to 18-year-olds who are, again, needing to be a part of an out-of-school time program so that their parents can be gainfully employed or things of that nature. The Iowa Women's Foundation's work then went on to identify what we now call childcare deserts. So these are places across our state where the need for childcare is not being met by whatever community is there. Maybe you have a couple of in-home providers, but perhaps they only serve up to age 5. Or maybe you have a couple of centers, but they cut off at a certain age when you think about school age. So part of that discussion was, how do we help communities to really lay the groundwork for what a high quality out of school time program might look like. And when we talk about these out of school time programs, we're talking about this from all different directions and lenses. So it might be the school who wants to start an after school program. It might be a group of community churches. It could be a Boys and Girls Club or a YMCA or a Big Brothers, Big Sisters, whatever resources are in that community is what we're talking about. So after some discussion, some focus groups, just lots and lots of work that have come into this, the Iowa After School Alliance's strategic leadership team put together a resource network committee, and we wrote and developed this toolkit. So the toolkit is really designed to be used one of two ways. The first way is for exactly what I was just saying. So you are living in any town, Iowa, that doesn't have an out-of-school time program and you want to start one. This kit will give you ideas, tips, hints for building from the ground up. The other way, though, that it can be used is if you're an existing program and perhaps you're struggling with a specific component of programming, this toolkit can be designed to be used by you, your staff, your leadership team, whatever that means for you at your site, to kind of give yourselves a brush up, for lack of a better word. So everybody, I'm hoping that you can see my screen right now. So I'm looking at the Iowa After School Alliance website, and this is under the OST in Iowa tab is where you can find the After School in a Box. So I'm going to scroll down here. If you're unable to see this, somebody please unmute and let me know. So again, this is available on our website. And the way this website is designed, so this is what I want to show you today, is you can absolutely download the full document of the toolkit. So the whole shebang in its entirety. Full disclosure, this is over 200 pages long. So if you want to do this, you can do this. You can save it to your laptop, your desktop, a file. You can do whatever you'd like with that. It's absolutely free material to be able to be used. However, we also have it broken down by sections so that if, again, you are struggling with a particular area, you can go to this section and download just the parts that you need. So again, thinking about that ground up approach here, the very first section we have is establishing your program. So this is going to provide, and we have this little description here, we have samples, templates, all sorts of documentation that you might be needing to access to be able to help that part of your program. So let me just give you an example of what that looks like. So if I hit this download, you can see that this particular section is 46 pages long. And the way each of these sections is broken down is by content area, so determining your need, what are your program goals, what should the role of your program director be, why do you need bylaws. We have information in here about policy and employee handbooks, parent and volunteer templates, why data tracking is important, and then if you're interested, why licensing with the Iowa Department of Human Services might be beneficial for your program. At the conclusion of each summary page, which is 1 or 2 pages long typically, we have this kind of grayed out box where you can click directly to get to those components. So if you would like to see a sample of bylaws, you can simply click there and it will immediately take you to that sample. Now, at the bottom of each of those pages, then, there's also this little kind of gray arrow tab that says back to section resources. If you click that, it will immediately take you back up to that grayscaled box, which I think is a nice little feature because, again, you don't want to be scrolling through 200-something pages just to get back to where you need. When it comes to our templates, so I'm going to go to the parent handbook template. We have this little icon up here where you can click and download this template for you to be able to fill in to meet the needs of your site. So that's just a couple of little details that I was going to share with you. Does anybody have any immediate questions about that? And feel free to unmute or go ahead and use the chat. Okay, so if you look at our sections here, we go from establishing the program. We have a section on budget. We have a section on staffing and volunteer considerations. So if you were on the best practice webinar on Tuesday, this was a section that we did spend a little bit of time with. The value of community partnerships, recruiting and enrolling youth into your program, effective program components, how to effectively evaluate your program, and how to effectively advocate for your program. We also have some fairly common resources on this page, and you are able to download those as well as one single resource then. So another area that I thought maybe today we could take a look at real quick is this effective program component, because many of you have been charged or tasked with designing academic and enrichment components to help your program be the best program that it can be. So in this particular section, we have several links to additional resources that you might want to consider taking a look at to help build up your program. So if you're interested in free program activities, Mizzen by Mott, and here's the link to that, is a good way for you to be able to download this app to your phone, your tablet, your computer, and be able to pull up some free lesson plans that can be You can also sort by age, topic, and time, and that will help you to be able to add in some of those additional, perhaps filler times, or take those and build it into a larger enrichment or academic component. If you're looking for mentoring, you can see that we have some resources here for mentoring. We have a section on conflict resolution, safety, youth voice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, family engagement, service learning, and STEM. And again, in this particular section, this is designed a little bit differently because we have the direct links, but then we also have a case study on the effectiveness of a program in northern Iowa. So that's another example. Some of you are interested in building up your partnerships. So let's maybe take a look at that section real quick. So community partnerships and why they're important. So here are some of the things that you maybe want to consider when you're thinking about your partnerships. All of you are either school-based or working with a school. So school districts should be a first logical connection for you when you're thinking about your partnerships. You might also want to consider business leaders. You know, are they able to provide monetary support for you or other types of support? So in this particular section, we talk about the benefit to the business also is that their employees' children have that safe place to go after school when they're at work. Because we know that when kids are able to attend programming and again, be safe and cared for during the times when their parents are working or after school when they're not quite off work yet. We know that businesses see bumps in productivity. They also see bumps in a reduction in the number of employee absenteeism days, employee sick days, and things of that nature. Because again, these parents are now able to know that their child is being cared for from the times of 3 to 6, generally speaking. You might want to look at local nonprofits. So this is a great way to maybe partner with them to think about things like food, transportation, clothing, mental health support. I know several of you are already partnering with local nonprofits. So if anybody has a great idea that you want to jump in there and share with that, I would love to hear that. And then also thinking about those local service agencies, which some may be nonprofits, but then others could be places like, for example, your community partner in your area. So in Cedar Rapids, that would be HACAP. In the central Iowa area, it might be MICA, or I think I just lost the name of the other one right now off the top of my head. So if you can think of it, please unmute or drop it into the chat. You might also be able to think about places like United Way. And these are really good ways for you to think about gathering some support in terms of tangible items. So for example, United Way might be willing to do a book drive for you. But on the flip side of that, they also might be offering some free training programs or reduced cost training programs that could benefit your program then too. You might also look at faith-based institutions. Several of our 21st century sites have a relationship with churches or mosques or synagogues in their area in which maybe they help with some transportation needs for field trip events or things of that nature. They also may provide a meal or a snack to you, which is a great partnership. You can also think about government entities. Chambers of commerce might be a good place to start. This could be a really cool way for you to allow some of your older youth to do some job shadowing or maybe even work in a community youth service project. Public service providers, places like police departments, healthcare providers, fire departments, those are always great. When I was running 21st century programming, I know the kids absolutely loved it when the police stopped by and would shoot hoops with them or sit and read books with them. Again, it really built that sense of community for those partnerships. And then, of course, we also would have those same entities come in annually and provide lessons or a speaking opportunity on drug and alcohol prevention, or perhaps violence prevention or something of that nature. So think about those too. And then finally, last but not least, don't forget that volunteers can also act as community partners as well. So this might be a great way to engage, somebody in the community who has a real passion for the work that you're doing. So folks, I'm going to stop for just a moment. My hope is that during this time, you maybe even pulled up the toolkit on your own and checked out a few sections. I'd like to open the floor now just to see, what comments or questions do people have about this resource? What might you see as areas that I would need to think about if I'm going to develop this further into professional development offerings? What are some things that you would suggest to me to consider? And then last but not least, if you think I missed something, please let me know if we can add a section to this toolkit, because we really see this as being kind of a living document. And I'm going to preempt that comment by saying that after we developed and posted this, we completely understood that we really do need a section dedicated absolutely 100% to equity, diversity, and inclusion. So that will be coming. But I'm going to stop talking for a moment. Please unmute and let's just have some discussion now. You guys are a quiet group today. Maybe let me start with this. Do you guys think you'll use this resource? Do you think you'll grab a section and brush up on something? And if so, is there a particular section that you thought is maybe one that you would be sure to visit? Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see some of the topics again.
Hey, Crystal, this is Bobby Joe with Des Moines Public Schools. And I think this is a fabulous resource. I really see us using it kind of as an onboarding piece for when we either have brand new programs or if we are onboarding new staff to the 21st Century Program. I think that this would be a really great onboarding piece for us. Our programs have been in existence for a long time, but I think for everyone to kind of have a refresher and update, and then as that onboarding piece is really beneficial.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bobby Joe. I appreciate that. So I would also invite you that Bobby Joe and everybody, that as you're looking at this, again, if you're noticing that maybe there is something that could be added to it, or if you like a particular section or found a particular section to be a little bit cumbersome, I would love to have that feedback.
Hey, Crystal.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This is Kate Pankey with Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Iowa. Hey, I think I'm just soaking it all in, and I think probably everyone is too. I think that this is honestly not only a great resource for our 21st Century funded clubs, but I can also see it being a really great resource for the others as well. So my question to you is that when you were creating these resources, were you looking side by side with the local evaluation and things like that in order to speak to the various components that are required?
So the answer is yes, but. So to your exact point, Kate, this is designed to be beneficial to 21st Century, but more as well. So I think actually, I want to say it was last month on a call, if any of you were on, I took a little bit of time to talk through just generally a little bit of the background or history about the Iowa After School Alliance. So clearly the IAA is an entity that supports the work of 21st Century. So I think Vic is on the call today. I would hope that he finds value in us because, again, we really try to work with him to be able to get some of the coordination and the logistical efforts and supports in place so that you guys can do all of the great things that you're doing with your grant funds. But in addition to 21st Century, we're also an outreach support and program to all other out-of-school time sites across the state. 21st Century, of course, has the 40% free and reduced price lunch to even be considered as an applicant for those funds. And that is absolutely needed because we know that those particular sites with that high free and reduced price lunch rate really do need that additional support. The problem becomes is what happens when you're in a community that has 45% or even 60 or 70%, and they don't meet that threshold. Excuse me. And I did that backwards. They should have been 35 or 25%. They don't meet the threshold for 21st Century. This can be something that they would be able to use at their sites then too, or to start a program in thinking about this. So one thing that I would say is this toolkit does have a section that talks about charging fees. That is something that it's not allowed, but it's discouraged by 21st Century because you're already serving very low income families with these programs. So, however, if you're in a community that has a 25% free and reduced price lunch rate, you may have the ability to do a sliding fee scale or something of that nature. So when we think about that local evaluation document, there's a lot of best practices that are already built into that document. And there are many of those that are also in this toolkit. But I would not necessarily say you could say apples to apples at every single step of the way, because everybody's in a slightly different position when it comes to their out of school time program.
Sure, that makes really good sense. Thanks for pointing that out. Is there any way to search this document by keyword or anything like that, or any of these documents, I guess once downloaded maybe?
I do think there is a feature, yes. And then if you look at, I'm downloading the full document right now, so give me a moment because it is a little bit larger. There is that. There's also the table of contents, which could potentially help. But yes, there should be, once you get it downloaded to your device, you should be able to do a search. And if at any time you're having trouble finding something or you're looking for something in particular, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to point it out to you where it is in the toolkit. And if it's not there, like I said, we see this as a living document that we can be able to grab this and do some additions over time. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Anyone else?
Did I hear the word fees being said?
You did hear the word fees being said. So Vic, what I was saying for that is this toolkit is designed to support 21st Century, but it's not exclusive to 21st Century. So there is a portion in here that talks about fees and how that might be structured within an out of school time program. But that of course fees are discouraged in 21st Century because of course you're already serving low income families.
Well, and consider this, Iowa has the highest percentage of both parents working in the country. And when you've got families in poverty, it may not be just one job. It may be more than one job, and they're struggling to put food on the table. It's a lot better proposition for your community to go ahead and form partnerships and get community groups that can contribute, like Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, to provide a free after school program, and you're going to get higher attendance than to try to, charge a fee, and secondly, you could get DHS childcare funding that would provide funds for running that program without charging a fee. So that's almost, going to be obsolete. I think down the road as we start looking at what are our options.
And we do have a section in here that will take you to the page where you can explore DHS licensing. So yes, that is absolutely in this toolkit as well. I did pull up the quality standards page because many of these are also embedded in that local evaluation document, but these are kind of the core of this toolkit as well. So what makes for a high quality program? It's these these quality standards that can be found in this toolkit as well. So we're looking at positive human relationships, appropriate indoor and outdoor environments, effective programming, strong partnerships, which is exactly what Vic was just talking about. And again, we have a whole section dedicated to community partnerships, effective administration, and then it goes into those more in detail. So, any other thoughts or comments? So right out of the gate, it sounds like if I was going to develop further presentations on this, I would maybe want to think about it from an onboarding approach, which I think is great and valuable. And then perhaps even aligning it with the local evaluation document and possibly even the site visitation document for 21st century in particular. Does anybody else have any thoughts regarding future professional development sessions?
Crystal,
this is, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Bobby Joe again. First of all, like, thank you so much. This is just so much work, and getting something like this together just takes so much time and effort. So thank you for your team. I think because it is a pretty cumbersome document, I think another interesting way to use it with professional development may be somewhat like a book study. So, you know, people can kind of dive into a section on their own and then come back with a group and kind of discuss the key points, just because it is a larger document. But again, thanks to you and your team, because this is, I know, a lot of work to get together.
Yeah, I love that idea. Thank you, Bobby Joe. And then Jenny, I believe you were also trying to speak there too.
Yes, I wanted to thank you as well. And as someone new to all of this, there's so much great content in this. I think if I had it in advance and could go through it a little bit more just to learn all of the components, I would be able to ask additional questions or suggest additional resources, but it's really terrific.
All right. Yeah, again, not to put you on the spot, Jenny, I did include the link in the invitation for this month's call, but I get it. You know, things get missed. I do the same thing. So no worries there, no judgment or anything like that. And again, it's not like you guys don't have anything else to do that you could just immediately dive in and read this 209-page document, right?
Well, and thank you for doing that. So you're ahead of me.
So yeah, so with that being said, again, I'd welcome any other further comments, but as you take some time to go through this, if you have a thought, I'd love to hear it, because again, this did take some time and some energy, and it's something that, you know, we're very proud of, but we also want to make it really applicable to your lives. So again, if you find something that's just not quite working, or you're like, gosh, I wish they had a section on this, please let me know, because again, we can work to continue to develop that. So again, unless somebody else has anything, I think at this point, we'll just kind of leave the toolkit for a moment. And then I would like to just maybe open it up to the floor today and just do a check-in. How are things going? What's going on in your 21st century sites? Is there anything that we can be of benefit to you for? This is your time.
Crystal, this is Chris from Boys and Girls Club. I'm going to look more deeply into the literacy resources and see if there's ways I can reach teens with that. A lot of them are weary of reading books, and it's about finding books they might like, and it's a bit of a struggle. And so I'm going to look at those resources more closely.
Chris, you're speaking about the literacy coaching that Teresa's doing?
Yeah, I noticed in the document there's resources there on literacy that I saw. Yeah. So I'm going to take a look at that first for sure.
Yeah. So let me kind of give you this thought as well. So some of you maybe know this about me, some of you don't, but I also work part-time in my local community library. And just because of the nature of who I am also in charge of children, teen, and family programming at our local library. So if you have any ideas that you want to bounce off me, or if there's anything that I can be of benefit to you, in addition to Teresa Slaughter, of course, let me know. Because I do know that Teresa has kind of a lesson or a topic on graphic novels and how they can be used to maybe entice some of those a little bit more leery readers. You know, graphic novels are something that people feel very strongly about, that they're either not a real book or, you know, something to that effect. I always say graphic novels, if you can get people to read graphic novels, that is such a fantastic way to get them hooked into that world of literacy. So if that's something that you're interested in exploring, I may be able to help you make some connections there. Or again, just sharing some ideas that have worked in the past for me as I implemented those, you know, young and teen reading program components in our local library too. I'd be happy to visit with you about those.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, just shoot me an email if once you're kind of through thinking about what it is you'd like to do. So, anybody else on the call today? Anything going well? Is there something that you're maybe struggling with? I know a lot of you are also just transitioning back into a new arrangement with your kids in attendance and things like that too. So, any other thoughts today?
Crystal, this is Kate Pankey again.
Hi, Kate.
Hey, I know, I ask lots of questions.
No, that's great.
You know, as not being the program person and not implementing the program myself as the grants person, I struggle to get the requirements to staff at all levels. And so I don't know if you have a resource already, probably do, but just something that makes it easy for, you know, I guess even unit directors in our case, or folks who are doing training for other staff, just to ensure that they understand all of the requirements, the elements required, particularly of the 21st Century Grant.
Yeah. So, Kate, if I'm understanding correctly, almost something that you can take to your direct service staff of, this is why we ask you to do the things that we're asking you to do.
That would be beautiful. But then also just even honestly like a checklist, because there are things that are required like that, the parent night, right? And just making sure that that gets communicated to all involved. But just, you know, some big components like that. And that's something that I could certainly put together, but I thought if I didn't have to recreate the wheel, that would be a nice thing. And that, you know, this document is amazing, but I almost could see a distilled version that could go down to, you know, program staff who have less time to, you know, to read through something, to read through all of these resources. I certainly will, but they don't have quite that much time.
Right. So we actually did do a presentation, I want to say it's been about a year ago. So let me do a little digging. I'll find this and I'll shoot you a link for it. But it really was kind of a breakdown of everything that's required for 21st century. And then my thought, Kate, is that, you know, if you want to take a look at that, and if you want assistance from myself or members of my team to maybe come up with a version or a presentation for your direct service staff, I'm happy to do that. But this laid out, again, all of the documentation, all of the requirements, the expectations, and the why behind it. So this is, you know, it's not that we're just asking you for this to become a giant pain, right? We're asking you this because we really do need to be able to better tell our story, to make sure that we still receive funding, because we're looking for those youth outcomes and so on and so forth. So let me do a little digging after the call, and I'll follow up with you directly on that.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else today? So I would imagine that most of you are gearing up for summer. And I would also imagine that some of you are maybe a little bit leery about what that might look like. Is there anything happening summer-wise that you perhaps need some additional support from? Okay. Again, quiet group today, so that's absolutely fine. If you encounter something that you want to run some ideas past us, we're happy to do that. Happy to provide you with some supports and ideas or resources if that's what you are in need of. And just know that we're here for you. So by my clock, it's now 10:40. It was kind of a quick call today, but that's all I had planned. So unless there are any other questions, I think we can probably wrap this up today. We will not do a new grantee staff transition committee call in March because it does interfere with spring break, which again, each site's doing spring break a little bit differently this year, but we will not have a March call. We'll reconvene in April. And off the top of my head, I don't recall immediately what that topic is, but I'll send out a calendar invite with that as well. Again, if you have any feedback for me on the toolkit, love to hear it. And if you have an individual situation that you'd like to maybe get an additional resource or thought process for, I'm here for that too. I'm also willing to just do a call with you and bounce some ideas off or something like that if that's beneficial to you. So we hope to support you however we can. All right, just want to check the chat because I saw a couple things come up. Oh, you're very welcome, Bobby Joe and Danny. And I'm going to stop recording